Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I pray that the peace, the mercy and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon you. And a big congratulations for making it to the 7th day. It's the penultimate video. We're very close to the end. And this is the point where we really do start noticing some very powerful insights in terms of our prayer. And what's really important at this point is to actually be aware of our progress, to be on top of our notes, to read through our notes, and see what difference we've actually made in our prayer, how far we've come, what progress we've made. And that will really help us going forward, inshallah. So today I want to do two things. One is speak about the theory of the 4 stages of our spiritual growth, and the second thing is to practice together. We're going to recite some du'as which we can recite before we even practice reciting the Quran, and when we do this will really help the way that we recite the Quran. So the 4 stages of our spiritual growth. Now, these I want you just to appreciate these for now, and throughout today's lesson, I want you to notice how this affects the way that we recite the Quran. So the first stage is the victim stage, where we're kind of out of control. We're not really aware of how we recite, or even of how much control we have of the way that we recite. And it's actually the stage which most people are usually in. They're not really too aware of how they pray, or how much control they have over the way that they pray. So that's the first stage. Then the second stage, which will help us understand the first stage once we understand the second stage. The second stage is a stage where we're actually in control of the process. Now we actually notice that through spiritual practice, through making time for practicing the way that we pray, for practicing our posture, practicing the way that we recite the du'as, taking time to journal about our concentration, doing these kind of spiritual exercises, this will put us in the driving seat. It will make it stop being like such a guessing game, how we pray, and it will give us much more control. So that's the second stage, where instead of it kind of us being the victim, we're in control, we're in charge. Because of our spiritual practice, we decide how our prayer actually comes about, how our prayer manifests, how our prayer ends up showing up in the world. So that's the second stage. First stage, victim stage, we're not in control. Second stage is where we are in control. Yeah, this is the control stage. And then the third stage is something which I'm sure nearly all of you have experienced by now, by week 4. And this is where instead of you doing the action, it comes through you. So you might be reciting the Quran, and instead of you having to force it, it kind of happens through you. We can call this the flow stage, where instead of having to force the letters out of your mouth, like it's a really painful exercise or something which you have to make happen, it happens by itself, it flows through you. So that's stage 3. And then beyond that there's a stage 4, which is a bit advanced. So I'm not going to go too detailed on stage 4 today, but I'm going to look at I think primarily I want to get you to look at the stage where we go between stage 2, where you're forcing something to happen, and stage 3, where something's just happening by itself and flowing through you. Just these 2 main stages. And there is a stage 4, you can keep that in mind. If you appreciate something beyond stage 3, where it's not happening through, you actually feel like, you're actually one with Allah, then you might experience that. But don't worry too much about that for now. But as we go into the second part of today's lesson, I want you to keep a question in mind, which is, how does flow, how does this removing effort, how does that affect your concentration? So that's the main question I want you to keep in mind. How does removing effort and coming into flow, how does that affect your concentration? So we're going to move on to the second part of today, which is actually reciting some of the du'as. Now we're going to start with the dua for reciting the Quran. Again, here I want you to go through your own protocol for breathing and bringing yourself into the present moment and not being very, very distracted. So that may mean pausing the video here. It should mean pausing the video here and giving yourself a few seconds to breathe. And in fact, we'll do one breath together. So noticing your breath coming through your nose. And notice however long for you your breath comes in for. Hold it where it comes in and then allowing the breath to come out. And then here you can pause the video just to do it for yourself. So we're going to start with the dua for reciting the Quran. This is a dua which gives us protection from shaitan. Very, very powerful dua. So, first word. A'udhu, a'udhu. So the first sound is a. Then we've got an ayn, which is a. Practice the ayn sound. A. A'u, a'udhu, a'udhu, a'udhu. Good. Now, I want you to try and, now we've practiced, try and see if you can say it without as much force. Yes, so breathe in. Breath helps. A'udhu. Good. So I want you to notice the transition between stage 2 and stage 3, or whatever that means for you. Now I'm going to move on to the next word. Billahi. 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 And notice this is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Billahi. A'udhu billahi. Good. Now doing both of these words together may take a bit of practice, so remember to breathe. A'udhu billahi. Good. And try and keep your awareness on the words if you can, without thinking about anything else or worrying about anything else, or even worrying about the way you're saying it. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan nirra minash shaitanir rajim minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Good. And remembering to breathe and practicing that at your own pace, in your own time. And at this point, I just want to ask you how reciting the dua before reciting the Quran, how that helps you recite the Quran, how that helps you concentrate, and how that helps you become a bit more aware of your thoughts and maybe a bit more aware of any distractions which can happen. It might even encourage you to get rid of any distractions which you might have. Anyway, the next dua is where we take the name of Allah. This is where we seek protection in Allah from shaitan. And the next dua, Bismillah. Here we take the name of Allah who is merciful. Bismillah. Bismillah. الرحمن الرحمن الرحيم رحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Again, see if you can stop forcing the letters so much and see if you can allow them to flow a little bit more. And there's going to be a scale of this. This is not like something you suddenly do and you're perfect at it. It takes practice, takes time, takes conditioning, takes effort. But just noticing how that helps, noticing that instead of forcing, you're just allowing it to happen. These are the du'as which you used a lot throughout your life, so you'll notice it's quite easy maybe for you to flow. Some of you might require a little bit more effort, and maybe some of you might be hitting stage 4 at this stage, where you're actually noticing your spiritual ecstasy, where you're actually noticing your own connection with Allah and your awareness of Allah simply by saying these du'as and asking Allah for His help by using this du'a. So I hope that practice was useful for you. And again, I want you to just understand your practice in terms of the 4 stages of spiritual growth. One is being a victim, one is being controlled, one is trying to let go of control and allowing it to happen through you, flowing, and being aware of these stages. I'm going to remind you of the questions which you should be asking yourself. So one of the most important questions for today is, how do you fit in to the stage based on your recital? So based on the way that you recite the Quran, how does that help you fit in? Are you kind of out of control? Do you not know what you're reciting? Are you somewhat in control because of your spiritual practice? Have you practiced enough so that now you don't have to worry about maintaining control and now you can kind of flow? And asking yourself where you fall in, which stage are you at in terms of your reciting? And as well as that, looking at your posture. How do you stand? Do you stand up straight? Do you stand up relaxed? Do you stand with your knees slightly bent rather than interlocked and all tense? When you're reciting, are you able to go into flow when you're reciting? Are you able to concentrate in your prayer? And are you able to develop an awareness of Allah in your prayer? An awareness of Allah which actually it kind of extends beyond your prayer and into your everyday life. Maybe you can start asking yourself, how does your awareness of Allah throughout the day, how has that changed and evolved as you've been going through this course? And the reason it's so important for you to ask these questions, write down the answers, is because in reality this course isn't the end. This is not the end of your improvement and transforming your prayer. The more you start journaling, the more you start writing this down, the more you realize that improving your prayer is a lifelong project. But the notes which you've made throughout this course will help you develop it into a lifelong project. So I hope that's clear. I hope that's helped you, and I pray that Allah gives us all the ability to write down the answers to our questions. And I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section below, and also I look forward to seeing your comments on the WhatsApp group as well. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.